Brian. You're very welcome. Good to have you back. Sit down there. Oh, good song.
Thank you.
Interesting lyrics too. We can talk about those in a little while. Same title as the album, Irish Sun. Last time you were on, we were standing up over there and you said the next time you wanted to be on the sofa.
Yeah.
Well, here you are.
Delighted.
Under slightly different circumstances. You had at that time, #1 hit record. Much to your own surprise, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we all thought, you know, a perfect marriage and the freedom and the time to spend with the kids. What happened? Or was it over then when you were talking to me?
Yeah, I think so. For me it was anyway, in my head, but I think it's just a kind of at that exact time, obviously it was, for me it was right in the middle of it, and I still was kind of trying to figure out in my own head what was going on. Obviously we were having a lot of problems, but you know, I think regarding me and Kerry, it's just one of them things that when we got together we were very young. First of all, we were 19, even though, you know, we were perfectly happy for a long time, and when we met we were madly in love. And I just think as we got older, we just started to kind of grow in different directions, and the things that we both loved became different. The things we appreciated were completely different. And things change, you know, people change, and I'm a different person now than I was when I was 19.
Sure.
And
it's very young for anybody to get married, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well,
and you conducted your marriage, your courtship, everything in
but I have to be honest,
publicity.
like, I still don't, I wouldn't ever say that, you know, okay, now I kind of think maybe we're too young to get married, but everyone said it to me when I was getting married, and at the time, I'd still think we were right to get married because we were madly in love when we got married, and we were perfectly happy. But obviously, at the time when we got married, I never thought that things would change after we got married, and I would change, or she would change, or the way we were would change.
One of the things that, of course, can poison any marriage is a question of lack of trust.
Yeah.
You know, you and I haven't talked about that Stag Night incident before, and I don't go into the detail of it, but it's out there in the public domain.
No, absolutely, and you know what, I have to say that that whole thing was probably the start of the downfall of our marriage. And okay, you know, I made a mistake on my Stag Night, and you know, obviously me and Kerry, it was a hard time for both of us, you know, because we went through a lot, but we got over it, and she got over it, and she forgave me, and we started to try and rebuild our life and carry on. But unfortunately then, you know, for the last 2 years, the media and people outside of me and Kerry just couldn't let it go and kept bringing it back up. So even though we tried to bury it and move on and just forget about it and try and, as I say, rebuild our life, we weren't allowed to do that. Because
that was a sort of poison acorn that grew into a poisoned oak tree. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, obviously it's my mistake, and you know, I'm the one to blame. But you know, I think if it hadn't, so much attention hadn't been paid on it, maybe we could have, you know, got over it a lot sooner.
Yeah, and you kind of handled it badly at the time because you thought, I pretend it didn't happen, and I might get away with it.
Well, look, it's like anything. I didn't want to lose. You know, when at the time it happened, like, Kerry was the most important thing in my life, and I didn't want to lose her, and I was madly in love with her, and you know, obviously I didn't want anyone to know about it because I was ashamed of it.
And that came back to haunt you then.
And it's, you know, it's still coming back to haunt me today.
Yeah. All the stuff in the papers, you know, that Brian ended it with a phone call.
That's not true.
And that headline was repeated again and again in all the different papers.
No, you know what, I think the reason that keeps coming back is because when we broke up, we didn't speak to the media, neither of us spoke to anybody about it, because you know what, to be honest with you, when you break up, and for me, I still haven't got my own head around what's going on in my life at the moment. I'm still trying to figure it out, and the last thing you want to do is start talking to the press and telling the rest of the world what's going on in your life when you don't even know yourself. So yeah, as I say, there was lots of different stories saying that I dumped her over the phone, which is ridiculous. You know, me and Kerry have been having, you know, our own personal issues for a long time,
but you kept it under wraps pretty well.
Of course we did. People only see us on camera. People only see us in the public eye. We're not going to sit on your couch and start having an argument, or you know, we've got to be. You know, we had a public image, but what happens behind closed doors? That's real life, and that's. You know, we're real people, we're human beings.
But it got out really when you started to set up separate households. And
well, yeah, we kind of, to be honest with you, it was about 3 months ago, that's when it first kind of kicked off, and Kerry wanted us to separate, and then we sat down and we discussed it, and we just said, look, for the sake of our children, let's just try and make it work again, and from there it just went went downhill. But
And when you left Westlife, I mean, were you genuinely trying to make time so that you could explore your difficulties with
At
Kerry?
the time when I left Westlife, obviously the main reason that I wanted to leave Westlife and go home was because I was missing my kids. You know, and I being away from them, missing them growing up was killing me. And also not having, you know, the perfect marriage either wasn't helping. So I think in my head it was like, maybe if I have more time at home, we can maybe fix it and maybe make better. But to be honest, I think when I left Westside, because for the first month or 2 months we did spend, you know, all the time together, and it just didn't get
I remember
better.
when we talked at the time you left Westlife, there was a debate as to how much you'd planned this. But as it turned out, I mean, even from the court case that didn't happen yesterday because the witness wasn't there, but it's driving offences, you actually didn't know that you were leaving Westlife at the time you said to the judge, look, I'm going off on a Westlife.
No, I didn't. And it was really weird because the judge was really, really ticked off me. He was as if I'd kind of deceived him and told him that I was going on tour and I wasn't. But I only spoke to the guys that day of the court case. That night I told them that I wanted to leave, but originally I was going to leave after the tour.
Do the tour and
then leave. But then we decided between us that it wouldn't make sense because it'd be weird one of us knowing that one was going to leave after the man. So, yeah,
So you left, and you left quicker than you thought.
Yeah.
And suddenly you had all this time. But then you're a #1 hit maker, and you're on the road again.
yeah, but the thing about Westlife is because there's 5 of us and you're responsible for each other, and you can't just go home whenever you want. Whereas now I'm working my home life and my work life together. So I'm like working 5 days a week, and then weekends I'm with my girls now.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of like Kerry has the kids during the week, and then every weekend I have them.
And that's
but
the way you're
sometimes it
working
doesn't.
out at the
Well, but sometimes it doesn't work like that because schedules change and stuff like that. So, but generally it's on that kind of a base where I'll have them for like 3 days and she'll have them for 4.
So that story about, you know, you ended it with a phone call.
No, it's rubbish. How it happened, well, you know, I don't really want to go into it because that's not fair, but I didn't end it with a phone call. I didn't end it like that at all. When we had a conversation, when we both just realised that it was, you know, this isn't working, and it was, Kerry had already moved back to Warrington, and she was, you know, because we were having problems, she'd moved back and she didn't want to be in Ireland anymore, and I was like, talking on the phone, and she just asked me, do I love her anymore? And I just said, no, not the way I used to love you anymore. And that's how it ended. I didn't want to end the marriage, and I wanted to have a trial separation and stuff, but
Is it hopeless? I mean, is that it? I mean, your publicist Max Clifford, who represented you both, he said, you know, there's no hope. It's over. But can you ever say it's over?
Yeah, I think you can, because I think everything we've gone through the breakup and what it's taken for it to come to this stage, you know, because of how unhappy. Well, I can't speak on behalf of her, but I'm speaking on my behalf. Yeah. How unhappy I was in a relationship for so long, for what it took to get out of that for the two of us. I don't think it would be right to say.
You know, we're all so fond of you both separately.
And don't get me wrong. There's no. I don't have any bad feeling. I still love Kerry to bits. She's, you know, she wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend for years, and I still love her to bits. But I think for me, it just got to a stage where I'm not happy. I wasn't happy in that situation. And if I can't be happy, how can I make them happy?
All right. So it's a question of being not in love anymore, but still loving her.
Of course, I love her. I love her to bits. She's been.
So I'll never forget those scenes from the jungle when she chewed those. You know, so gutsy and so brave, and
she's brilliant. She's an amazing person, Kerry, and I, as I say, I do love her to bits. But to be honest with you, the reason why I think this is happening now is because I would hate if it got to a stage where we'd start to not like each other, and you know, in a couple of years down the road, it got nasty, and you know, I hate seeing that with people. And if you're not in love with each other, then that's
stories of a third party involved with you.
It's ridiculous. There's nobody else. And even now, when it happened, I was connected to every girl from Delta Goodrum to Girls Aloud to the best one of all was apparently I had a 6-month fling with the lead singer Franklin Gavin. And I said that's not true because I don't really fancy South African people.
What about some of the other headlines? I don't know how much of this you saw. I'm sure they gathered them for you, your publicist, and kind
I don't even.
Sneaky Brian bids for cut price split. Kerry won't get my money. You're being mean, Brian. All this sort of stuff. Selfish life of Brian.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And there's loads of them. I mean, that's only a... How do you react to that stuff, or do you just realise you can't do anything about it?
What can you do? Who cares what they say? It's like if they're gonna. Nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors, and you know, if people, I mean, it's hard enough for me and Kerry to try and now move on with our life and try and find happiness again, and then it doesn't really help when the media are looking at it from a distance and saying, oh, this is what it is and that's what it is, and it just makes things worse.
When did you last talk to her?
I spoke to her last night.
Okay, so
she's in good form. She started back working now again, which is great. She spent obviously a lot of time. She took a bit of time off after we split, but she's now starting back to work again. And she sounds really up again, which is good. I really, to be honest with you, I want her to be happy because, you know, just because. And as I said, that's why one of the reasons that we're not together, because I've got to a stage where I can't make her happy anymore. I'm not happy, so if I can't be happy myself, how can I make anyone else happy? And it just got to the stage when I came home, there was no happy atmosphere, and when that's gone, for 24, we're only 24, you know, it's not like we're married for 20 years and it's something you used to, you just got to be happy.
But, I mean, to what extent was it? I mean, Kerry knew from her own experience in Atomic Kitten what it was like being on the road, you're out there. It's not all a bed of roses, it's hard work.
That's all nonsense as well.
No, but it's hard work. But at the same time, if you're at home changing nappies, you know, you kind of swap for going out there and doing concerts and then maybe going for a meal after the gig and hanging out with the boys and having a bit of fun. It's a, you know.
But you know what, to be honest, that's not what my life was. Whenever I was off, I was home with carrying the kids. It's not like she was at home with the babies and I was off working. We both worked. She's doing all her TV shows. So we just, anytime we both got off, we were always, you know, together and stuff. So, no, I don't think our work life, obviously, the time apart didn't help because maybe we'd have spent more time together, things would have been different, but it got to a stage where we became so happy when we were apart that when we came back then it was kind of...
All right. Maybe I should have spotted this, but the last time you were on, and I talked to you about the lyric of Real to Me, and I quoted some of the lyrics, and I said, this is your life, you know, this is about you and your life. And you said, Pat, it's only a pop song. So maybe I should have picked up on that clue that this wasn't really where you were at that song at the time.
Again, songs are songs. I mean, you write every song on my album I wrote in maybe an hour or something. So you just sit there and you go in through a moment and you write the song. And a lot, to be honest with you, a lot of the songs I wrote for my album are now starting to come back to haunt me because people are going, oh, now we see what you were saying there and saying here.
And you've actually taken some of the tracks off?
No, I haven't. I have taken the songs off, but it's got nothing to do with what's going on now. It's just...
Yeah, but wasn't there one of them that had the title of Wiedersehen Bitch or something?
Yeah, Wiedersehen Bitch, but that was actually Kerry's favourite song on the album.
Yeah, that was about a fan, not about...
no, it's not about Kerry.
But you can imagine how people would jump to a
conclusion.
conclusion.
Well, that's it, you see. But then, no, to be honest with you, it didn't fit the album either. It was a bit like an old Def Leppard Queen track, so we took it off.
Yeah. Irish Sun, the song you sang, which is also the title of the album.
Yeah.
I mean, that was presumably about your own childhood. So, obviously...
But it's the song is just... It's sort of my experience of growing up in Ireland and you know, going to like a Christian Brother school and you know, when I joined Westside, when we travelled around the world, we saw so many different religions, so many different cultures, and it just, when I came back and thought about things like, if I didn't go to church, I was punished for it as a kid, and I started thinking, you know, I don't think God really want to punish somebody if they didn't really want to go to church. Like, I believe in God, I've still got my faith, but I just think the song just talks about how I've just lost my faith in the Catholic, not the Catholic Church, but the institution that it is, and I don't know. I don't want to sound like Bono or something like that. I'm not sure, you know, I'm not... To be honest with you, you got to understand, like, I'm sitting in a recording studio, I write this song, it's what's on my mind, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, I'm not trying to make a statement, I'm not trying to be John Lennon or something like that, or Bono, I'm just writing a song, and it's just, it talks from my personal experience of going to school with Christian brothers, the way they might approach punishing kids, as we all know, and it's, anyone that's been to a Christian Brother school, I'm sure
all
can
about
speak,
it. But you turned out all right, you know.
Yeah, it didn't turn
I think
out,
I did too,
I'm happy enough, but it's just now looking that I kind of think maybe, you know, kids should have a little bit more freedom of choice. And like, I know kids should be taught religion in school because they need to have some kind of stability and some kind of a direction, but I think when they get to a certain age, you know, people should be allowed to make their own choices and maybe experience other religions and other ways of life just to see what suits them. You know? Speaking
of younger people and opportunity, you're involved in a recording facility, isn't that so? When is that opening?
We should be ready in about two or 3 weeks.
And who can access it?
Anybody. Basically, what we've done is we've built a studio, so basically the upstairs, the top floor is the main recording studio where I'm going to do my next album and where I'm going to work from. And then downstairs we've got like 2 small studios where basically people can come in and make demos, but it's not. It basically they can make professional quality demos. It's the people that work on my album and do all that.
Okay.
They'll work on it, and it's obviously not. It's a very affordable price. It's not the prices we'd pay to make an album, put it that way. So it's a chance for singer-songwriters or kids that think they've got talent, that they can come in and for a very cheap price they can get a professional quality CD.
Okay,
and if we find people then that we think, yeah, these people have a chance of going somewhere else, we've got kind of different link outs then to record companies and managers and stuff like that.
There is a song which is not on your album as far as I know.
No, it is on the album.
Is it the song you're going to sing next?
Yeah, yes. It was the last song I wrote on the album.
And it's going to be on the final cut, as it were?
No, it's definitely on the final cut.
Okay, tell me about it.
It's called Sorry Love Daddy. Actually, I'd finished the album. The album was completely finished and it was about to get mastered. And I went into the studio just to finish up a vocal. And it was just after I'd split with Kerry. And for some reason I just had this idea of writing a song to Molly and Lily to kind of explain when they grow up. This song will be kind of my way of explaining to them how I was feeling at the time, and it's basically an apology letter to them that the way their life is now going to go because me and Kerry are.
All right, well,
separating.
Whatever happens, I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Brian, I hope both of you find happiness whatever way, and that the kids kind of come through it all.
To be honest, they are the most important thing at the moment, and it does kind of make, as there's times I start to feel really, really selfish because they are my priority in life, full stop. And I did go through a stage where I was like, just forget about how unhappy you are in that state, just think of the kids and just bear it. But, I think I started to realise then, I'm only a kid myself, I'm only 24 and so is Kerry. So that's, I think...
All right. Will you do the song, Sorry? Yeah. This is the first time it's been done in public, I think. Sorry, Love Daddy. Brian McFadden.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.